It is Artsa Canada Week, and I'm going to take a chance and try to name some of the Artsa leadership in the room over many years. Mark Anshin, Les Rothschild, Pam Albert, Jeff Denneberg, Phyllis Denneberg, David Baskin, Joan Garson, and, okay, you'll let me know if I miss someone. I'm sure you'll let me know. But needless to say, Holy Blossom Temple punches above its weight when it comes to leadership in Artseinu, the global Zionist movement for Reform Jews. And that should be a point of pride for our congregation. I should also give a shout out to my colleague, Rabbi Sam Kay, who helped to get out the vote. Many of you voted in the World Zionist Organization election, which gave us a great delegation. We were well represented at the Congress. I was pleased to be one of 4 delegates of Artsa Canada. And maybe you've heard me report on some of what I learned, of what I witnessed at the Congress, but I will say that in general, you should know we did very well. Because our leadership was so well organized, we actually swept on so many issues that are important to liberal Jews, liberal Zionists across the globe. So tonight we're especially honored to welcome Lesley Sachs, who can speak with such insight on what it means to be a liberal Zionist in Israel today. It's hard to be a liberal Zionist in the diaspora, God knows, and it's hard to be a liberal Zionist as a citizen of Israel as well, and yet it is, you will hear, very gratifying work. So Lesley has held many leadership roles. She has been a leader and continues to be a leader of our sister congregations, Beit Daniel in Tel Aviv and Kol HaNeshama in Jerusalem. She has served as the CEO of the Israel Women's Network, the director of the Israel Religious Action Center, that is the legal and advocacy arm of the Reform movement in Israel. It's doing critical work. She has served as the vice president of the World Union for Progressive Judaism. And from 2008 to 2018, Lesley served as the executive director of Women of the Wall, which is an organization continuing to make sure that women's voices can be heard at the Kotel. And then on the side, as a volunteer, Lesley has served on the board of the Jerusalem Women's Shelter for survivors of domestic violence, and she has chaired IKAR, a coalition of 22 organizations supporting agunot and women who are denied divorce. So please join me in welcoming Lesley Sachs. Shabbat Shalom, Lesley.
And these are the generations, Toldot, of Isaac, son of Abraham. Parashat Toldot tells a story of family complexity, love, rivalry, and lifelong search for blessing. Isaac and Ishmael, despite exile and pain, Ishmael returns to quiet reconciliation. The brothers come together to bury Abraham. Rebekah and Isaac, 2 parents divided by love. Isaac loves Esav, but Rebekah loves Jacob. Jacob and Esav, deception, blessing, and desperate longing for recognition. Toldot teaches us that the Jewish story begins not with perfection, but with moral struggle inside the family, and that holiness is found not in purity, but in repair. Ever since the judicial coup led by the Minister of Justice and our government in Israel, our national family, too, has been divided. The Reform movement in Israel, the IMPJ, joined some 2 million Israelis in the streets to defend our democracy. Even as the war shifted public attention to survival and humanitarian relief, attempts to undermine democratic institutions continued, quietly, persistently. Throughout this time, our legal advocacy arm, the Israel Religious Action Center, IRAC, remained vigilant, opposing efforts to publicize the courts and weaken the rule of law. We did not stop. They did not stop even during the war. The goal all along remained the same. It is to turn the judiciary into a political instrument serving those in power. Israel's current government is the most religious in the nation's 77 years of existence. 5 of the 6 parties there are by definition religious. 2 are ultra-Orthodox and 3 are religious Zionist, meaning they combine rigid orthodoxy with ultra-nationalism. This government, overwhelmingly male, Orthodox and Haredi, totally religiously right-wing, has a coalition which has been passing legislation which will strengthen Orthodox supremacy in Israel, directly harming liberal Judaism and alienating millions of Jews who live abroad. Several days after the return of the live hostages, the government advanced a bill called the Law of Fulfillment of the Jewish Identity in the Public Sphere. It declared that public Jewish life in Israel should follow Orthodox halakha everywhere in the public sphere. At the Western Wall, prayer would be again restricted to Orthodox customs, meaning no egalitarian plaza and no women praying aloud in the women's section. Women of the Wall, myself among them, could again face arrest for wearing a talit or reading Torah. The chief rabbi would become the final authority on anything Jewish. If enacted, this law could carry up to 3 years imprisonment for egalitarian prayer. So please come visit me in prison. I'm very acquainted with the intake by now. The IMPJ was also at the forefront of the struggle to bring back the hostages home. Among our congregations, we had families and friends of hostages. While supporting them, we also spoke publicly, in the Knesset, in the media, in the streets. Just as we did during the battle for democracy, we knew we had to bring a Jewish voice that differed from the government's. Our language, rooted in sacred text and ethical tradition, became a spiritual counterpoint to the growing and more moral confusion around us. One of the first actions of our rabbis was to compose a prayer for the release of the hostages. It seems so long ago, but it was only 2 years ago, which we translated and shared with Reform congregations worldwide. Soon the plaza before the Tel Aviv Museum became Hostage Square. Artists created installations of longing and pain, kibbutzim erected tents, family gathered daily to pray, sing, and weep there. We held over 100 Havdalah ceremonies, each drawing hundreds. It became the synagogue of the Israeli street, a space of prayer, solidarity, and hope. Every Shabbat in Jerusalem, we also led the Havdalah in the entrance to the main rally. Through these gatherings, we brought the language of liberal Judaism, compassion, equality, human dignity into the public sphere. We reminded the nation that Pidyon Shfuim, the redemption of the captives, is one of the most important mitzvot, as our sages taught. This tension raises a timeless question. What happens when doing what seems right for the future causes pain in the present? Recently, a researcher described something called moral trauma, the pain that arises when there's a gap between our values and what we do, take part in, or witness others doing. I believe many Jews today, soldiers, civilians, and liberal Jews worldwide, are living with this kind of moral trauma. Most of the Israeli media avoided showing the devastation and destruction in Gaza. This resulted in many Israelis not being able to feel the sense of revenge or justice for the horrors of October 7th. The IMPJ took a brave stand during the war as we saw humanitarian problems unfold. We felt compelled to speak our truth regarding our responsibility towards the suffering of the Gaza population. Together with the Rabbinic Association in Israel, Maram, we issued a public statement quoting Isaiah 58:7. It is not to share your bread with the hungry, to bring the poor and homeless into your home, and when you see the naked, to clothe them. We called upon our government to act with moral responsibility, to secure the release of the hostages, to protect the innocent, and to ensure humanitarian aid reaches all who need it. Parashat Toldot tells the story of family complexity, love, rivalry, and a longing search for blessing. Isaac and Ishmael, despite exile and pain, Ishmael returns, and we witness a quiet reconciliation, coming together to bury Abraham. Rebekah and Isaac, parents divided by love. As I said, Isaac loves Isaiah and Rebekah loves Jacob. Jacob and Esau, deception, blessing, and a desperate longing for recognition. Toldot teaches us that the Jewish story starts not with perfection, but with a moral struggle inside the family, and that holiness is found in the repair. Rebekah sends Jacob to Esau's blessing as the older son. She acts from conviction, yet her actions cause pain. Jacob obeys, yet feeling shame. Perhaps my father will feel me, he says. The IMPJ bears moral obligation to build a shared society between Arabs and Jews in Israel, all citizens of Israel. Through Iraq, the Israel Religious Action Center, we have long fought racism and incitement, especially when rabbis misuse Torah to justify hatred. This poisonous rhetoric has only intensified under this government and includes known racists in senior positions in the government. We respond with legal and public advocacy, defending equality and combating hate. Following a surge in racist incidents after October 7th, we issued a statement calling for shared society and condemning violence against Arab citizens. In 2024, our Racism Crisis Center received a record of 418 complaints, a sign of growing intolerance. We intervened in many cases, such as when a woman was refused service at a car rental agency because she was an Arab woman, and she was told, "We only rent to Jews." After our intervention, the agency issued a public apology and compensation to her. We also petitioned the government to provide adequate bomb shelters for Bedouin communities in the Negev, equally exposed to rockets from Gaza, but lacking protection. We even had to intervene when Arab citizens were denied entry into public shelters during missile attacks. We appealed to the Department of Local Government, Ministry of Interior, which promptly issued a clear instructions. Such behavior is illegal and immoral. Like Isaac's family, our global Jewish family is bound by love, pain, and blessing. Reformed Jews in Canada and Israel are different branches of one tree. Now more than ever, we must live by arvut hadadit, mutual responsibility. We need you, our partners in Canada and worldwide, to stand with us as we continue to defend democracy, religious freedom, and human dignity in Israel. And we, in turn, hear your struggle, the growing wave of anti-Semitism you face, and recognize our shared responsibility to support you. We can love Israel and at the same time criticize the government's actions, which do not coincide with our Jewish values. We all have responsibility to fight for the future of Israel, for the safety from outer forces, and for its moral internal safety. As a daughter of 2 German Jews who needed to flee, I know I must fight for Israel. From the day I finished my army service, I've been part of the struggle to forge a just society for our future, yours and ours. As the chair of the Israel Reform Movement, I would like to thank you all. Your love and care give us strength to continue fighting for justice, equality, and pluralism, and to raise the liberal Jewish voice for a better future. Jacob's story is not about deceit. It is about becoming worthy of the blessing he receives. Every generation must define what that blessing means. In our time, blessing lies in the power of, not in the power of wealth, but in the ability to stand together for the moral purpose, to rebuild our compassion and courage. May we, the family of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah, rise for this moment together. Shabbat Shalom.